Welcome back. I'm Harrison, and today we're getting into a video that's going to be about backgrounds. And before I do, let me just say this. Yes, as you can imagine, my environment has changed. I'm going to have a whole video coming out soon about this new background that I have. It's not permanent, it is temporary, but it's going to maybe be the background, the backdrop for a few videos. I essentially made a fort. I'm a grown man who decided to make a fort. You know, I think if that doesn't scream I'm an artist, I don't know what does, and I don't know how to help you beyond that. So join me as today we explore a failure, a mistake, and maybe it's a success depending on how you define it, but essentially I've been dealing with an issue with my illustrations for a couple of weeks now. I feel like the backgrounds are missing something. They're a little too flat for me. I feel like they're just a solid dark color, and the symbols look nice, the floor looks nice, but I want something that still leans in that realm of like symbolism that can be a nice little backdrop to the illustration. So today we're gonna walk you through me like experimenting with some nice little backdrop, and at the end of this I don't really love what I came up with, but I think that is what being an artist is. You set out to do something, you are brave enough to venture into the mysterious realm of creativity, and you might come back with something that's a little bit of an ugly duckling. And so today let me just show off to you that it's not all flowers and sunshine. Some days it's ugly ducklings. Here we go. Okay, so I'm picking out my color here, and you'll notice I'm breaking the mold, if you will. I always use a darker color to match the state of my mood, my soul. My emo-ness will never die. But for this background, we chose a lighter color just because the reference was lighter, and I didn't want to make it any harder on myself than I had to. And we're going to edit this in the Photoshop section of this video anyway, so I am just laying down my lines and making sure that I'm filling as much of the space as possible to give that soft gradient that occurs from shadow to highlight for this teardrop that is supposed to look recessed. And at this point I'm going through the woes of it. I think, oh, I just need to try harder, try more lines. And frankly, you know, I think it was too much in the wrong direction. You know how much you're trying to compensate for a bad idea, when at the end of the day you just need to move on to another idea. So I think that's what's happening here. I'm getting a little stuck in my ways. This is the tunnel vision that we as artists struggle with, and you're seeing it firsthand. And so welcome to the community of clumsy illustrators. Okay, we have our little teardrop shape established. I'm going to be honest with you, this took the longest amount of time across the whole video. I'd say 2/3 of the video of the time it took for me to do this project was just in doing this teardrop, because frankly, I'm trying to make this thing look recessed. I was inspired by other artists I follow, and I love this little look. And so I figured, this background isn't going to go on anything per se. This is just an experiment. Let's start there and see where it takes us. So because this little teardrop was trying to be recessed, but I hadn't established any kind of like surface to like give the teardrop a foundation. It's just on a blank screen. It was real hard to make it look believably recessed. So therefore I spent a lot of time thinking maybe it doesn't look believable because I'm not a good artist. But of course it just took effort, devotion, and because this is new for me, it's not a flower and it's not lines, it just took longer because I don't have muscles pre-established for this kind of aesthetic. So at the end of getting the teardrop to look the way I want it to look, I figured, you know what, maybe the effort, the reason why this isn't looking the way I want it to look is maybe because it's not grounded with some surface. So we are going to move into the next section where I'm going to add this lovely little circular surface to this teardrop. Okay, so essentially, again, we're not making it harder than it has to be. I have established a nice little masked circle in Procreate, so I'm not having to sit here and have all of you criticize how imperfect my circle drawing is. So again, I'm cheating. I'm using technology to make a perfect circle so that I can enjoy this little break for what it is. And it truly is a relief. I don't know if you could tell in the video, but I am just like, oh man, I am really suffering from so much energy output and effort extended on trying to make that teardrop look believable. And I think after just 30, 45 minutes of working on this surface situation, it just helps so much. This really confirmed the theory that the idea of trying to make a perfectly looking recessed teardrop floating in space defeats the purpose of it looking recessed. So with this nice little surface, it's easy, it's simple, it was a breath of fresh air, if you will, before we move on to plugging it in with our illustration. So enjoy the break that I got to enjoy as I'm just doodling a circle. Okay, we have our little surface there. It looks so nestled amongst our little teardrop. It looks like a finished piece. This is what I set out to do. What you're seeing here is what I pictured in my mind based off of some other artists' references. And right now it's time to move on to the Photoshop section of this video. Now, hear me out here. This is going to be something I haven't done before in these videos, where I'm going to bring you into Photoshop and show you guys the magic of computers. And we're going to essentially just play around with tone, contrast, and color to see how this little illustration we have works behind what you're used to seeing, my flowers and my line art. And at the end of the day, I don't feel like it looks too great. I feel like not worth duplicating this experiment, but we won't know unless we try. So let's start trying here in the next section. Okay, welcome to every artist's favorite part of anything. The crazy, the left field, the weird, the funky, where I am, thank goodness to technology, able to take my little illustration and give it new life. Really try to push and pull with color, with tone, with contrast, and with placement. You know, nothing's off the table, nothing's precious about this illustration, but it is funny. It doesn't take, 5 minutes in Photoshop when I realize, oh, the thing that took me like 2/3, it took me maybe like an hour and a half, this little teardrop in the center is gonna be covered up by my flower, and of course it is. I put it smack dab in the center, so it was always gonna be covered up by the flowers, but it took me drawing for 2 hours to realize that. So welcome to the life of an artist, and thank goodness for Photoshop, able to make at least this process pretty straightforward, pretty seamless. Could you imagine me having to do this like manually, analog? How many different like colors and illustrations I would have to do just to try out each little iteration? Oh man, don't get me started. But thank goodness we have technology. Thank goodness I know how to use Photoshop crudely. And you're seeing a push and a pull, a playfulness with like trying to find a bridge to this illustration we've spent so much time on with this flower from a previous video. And at the end, I don't think it really worked too well, as we've maybe talked about, but I think it was worth trying. But either way, what you're seeing here is me trying to find some saving grace, seeing maybe it's not working because I just haven't found that one thing that makes it work. And maybe there is one thing out there that would make this work, but I think after 3.5, maybe even 4 hours of trying from the beginning to now, I think it's just not worth putting any more life tokens towards or energy into to try to force something that isn't happening naturally. So welcome to the journey, and I hope it was worth it. So at this point, I'm not gonna really try anymore. I feel like anything else I produce is going to be different, but not necessarily better, if you know what I'm saying. So we have this little background shape. We integrated it. We figured out some fun little outlines to add to it. We plugged it in with our flower illustration, but at the end of the day, I don't really love it too much. You know, I would love to hear what you guys think in the comments below, but at the end of the day, I think this is a stepping stone to the evolution of the backgrounds for this illustration. So thanks for joining me today. Join me in the next video. Hopefully we'll have a little bit more of a success, but either way, I'll be there. Hopefully you'll be there too, and we'll get to commiserate in the misery or the joy of what it is to live life as an artist.